This week, the government of Ghana has come under immense scrutiny after an investigative documentary dubbed Galamsey Economy captured officials, including the vice president, in alleged corrupt acts. In this documentary, originally filmed in 2018, the journalist Anas Anas and his team posed as investors who were interested in opening a bank in Ghana. In the video documentary, the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Eduboahin, is seen packing up bundles of cash the undercover investigators had given him for shopping. When the minister was asked about who else needed to be seen in order for the bank opening project to proceed, he said the Vice President of Ghana. Boahin, despite saying he and the Vice President are more interested in the development of the country, also said that the Vice President should be given about $200,000 as a token of appreciation. Now, the Vice President has since denied any connection to the minister's actions. In the lead up to the premiere of the documentary, the President fired Boahin. President Akufo-Addo also directed Ghana's special prosecutor to probe the minister's conduct. But that hasn't stopped the citizens from berating the government. This is about the third time officials of the Akufo-Addo administration are caught in alleged practices with their hands in the cookie jar. This documentary also comes at a time the country is faced with dire economic hardships and a national currency that has failed to rise up to expectations. So what does this mean for the president's promise to fight corruption? I am Kemini Amanor, and you're welcome to the square. Let's meet our guests now for today's discussion. Professor Baffour Agyeman-Duah is a former UN advisor on governance. And then we also have Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is a senior political science lecturer at Ghana's premier University of Ghana. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the square. Let's get straight into our discussions, and I'll start with you, Doc. Have you seen this documentary, and what are your thoughts in it?
Unfortunately,
Doc, you're muted.
The documentary, but I have read pieces of the story in the media, so at least I have a fair view of what really transpired in that video.
Right. I'll come back to you in a moment. Let me also pick the thoughts of Professor Agyeman-Duah on this. Prof, how did you feel about this documentary? Doc, now you are muted. Prof, you're muted. I beg your pardon. No, we can't hear you, Prof. So how about you unmute yourself and then you can join the conversation. In the meantime, let me continue with Dr. Asah-Asante. Doc, we have seen this before, particularly with this administration. To have this happens again, some would say that members of the government have not learned any lesson. What are your thoughts into that?
When you look at corruption, since the birth of this republic, I'm talking about the Fourth Republic, we have seen instances or incidents of corruption that have been reported by the media and all that. The problem still rages on, but to be fair, with government, we are saying that governments have done their bit, but except that the fight is gradually becoming a difficult one for governments. And it's unfortunate because let us also place it in proper context that this video that we're talking about was done by an individual as a personal enterprise. And then I'm told the president had opportunity to look at it, and the rest of them, we know them too well to be recounted here. That the person who is alleged to have been involved in that has been relieved of his position. So, follow from this, the president has made a recommendation to the Office of Special Prosecutor to look into the matter. So for now, we want to look at it as an allegation that is yet to be proven, because once the matter is in the bosom of the Office of Special Prosecutor, the gentleman who is being accused of wrongdoing will have his day there and then defend himself for all that has been directed at him. Yeah.
Very well. Doc, earlier you had mentioned that you hadn't seen this video, and I'd love to show us snippets of the video for you and our viewers who may not have also seen it, but I'd let you know when that video is ready to roll. Well, we can take a look at the video now, so let's do that now, and then we'll come back to the conversation. Hopefully, Prof, you'll be ready to speak to us also. Take a look.
Was to invest close to $500 million into the banking sector and in other projects, and we wanted those who could lead us to the relevant power players to make it happen. We met with several people who promised to help. They included businessmen, so-called fixers, and even a top Ghanaian lawyer who gave us astute legal advice. He rightfully advised us to retain 75% control of the bank we wanted to set up and leave the remaining 25% for a local partner. Yet, none of them came close to the state minister, who is not only a public servant betraying public trust, but a top keeper of Ghana's purse, Charles Edubuahene, then the Deputy Minister for Finance.
I say that I should explain to you for your own respect. It's not good for him to have every discussion with you outside. He says that it's also true to their royal way of having discussion with their guests. You will have discussion with him or her in the open, and then you will dive into a closed door meeting. So that's what if you like, as he said, out there are true. Basically, it's about the contracts, and then it's also about the money. So the money, we have not touched it yet, but we wanted that one to be done yet. So they have money, but sometimes how to control those money and all of that, you need to be careful. The West will tag you as supporting terrorists or being terrorists.
No, I totally understand. And you know, for me, it's not really about money. You know, I'm really committed to my country, and we want to see it grow. And we can only make it grow if we have investors like you. You know, of course, you know, we all like money, but that is not the main thing. The main thing is for development.
They say they have some money that they want to mobilize all of them and then put it into an account in Ghana. And he says that he wants all of that to depend on him. And that after when it comes to whatever he would be entitled to ransom, there's no chance.
No problem. But should that be, would it be in an account with?
Well, there's more to this video, but we're still here on the square discussing issues that have come up since the video premiered in Accra, Ghana. Still with me is Professor Agyeman-Duah. He's a former UN advisor. And I want to go to you, Prof, now. Hopefully you can hear us now. What do you think about this happening again, particularly under the same administration?
It is very disheartening. It is very demoralizing. And I can tell you Ghanaians are not very happy with what has just happened. But as you rightly said, this thing was reported back in 2018. Even though it was shown just recently, people are still angry. Because this is not the first time an incident of this nature has happened. This same journalist, Anas, he had previously recorded incidents of corruption within the judiciary, and the Chief Justice at the time courageously dismissed and disciplined some of those justices who were caught on the tape. Then, of course, Anas also had a program on Galamsey in which he recorded a senior person, or who was the guy who was coordinating the ministerial committee on Galamsey. He was reported receiving money. And again, we didn't hear much of that. Nothing really happened. The young man is still around. So this time happening and being directly connected to the Jubilee House certainly doesn't make for a very good reason. So people are very disappointed. But having said that, it is also known that this documentary does not establish any direct linkage between Charles Dubois, who received the money, and the vice president who was mentioned. So far as we know, there's been no connection at all established. So we have to understand that there are people also who, for grandstanding purposes, will go and present themselves as big, present themselves as having known some big people, and therefore using the name of such individuals to gain for themselves, for selfish purposes. So this one does not surprise me. In this country, oftentimes we find people who dress up in military uniforms and go out there to harass people to extract money. Then we find out they are not really soldiers. So in the same way, I see this man, Dubois, as being one of those who has been parading themselves. But nonetheless, the fact that somebody from such a high position will come to that level in itself is frightening. And I am personally disgusted by what has happened.
Oh, before I move on to Doc, I just want to take you up on the last bit of your submission. This will not be the first time that somebody who's been caught in alleged corrupt incidents will be referring to the presidency or the office of the vice president, as some sort of connection where, everything will come to a head. We saw that in number 12, also by Anas Aremiyaw Anas. What does it tell you about the conduct of business at the presidency and the office of the presidency?
Excellent question. As somebody interested in governance, my concern is that our political system has created structures that seem to center everything around the executive. I cannot understand why any serious business person wanting to enter our market will have to go all the way to the president for clearance. And this is what gave the opportunity for Dubois to do what he did. I can't understand why people looking for business cannot deal at the ministerial level, for instance. Even before that, we have all kinds of agencies like the Ghana International Investment Promotion Council. We have all these agencies that are supposed to work with business people, with investors who are interested in the country. But to have a system that links such potential investors directly to the presidency in itself is a serious, oversight on the part of those who may have created this kind of condition in our constitution. But nonetheless, even if the constitution provides this kind of arrangement, any good president should understand that it's not in their interest to be linked directly to investors coming to this country. They will be easily compromised in such a situation. So whilst I think we need to revise our structures of governance, at the same time, I am not happy by the fact that top politicians have been unable to behave themselves in such a way that even if the constitution allows certain things to happen, they haven't seen to make it right by themselves behaving the right way. So I am very much disturbed by what is going on. And I think any good president will have to lead the charge to revise the constitution and create structures that will insulate the president from the center of money making and business in the country.
When the wave of criticism has died down, our hope will be that people in government particularly would have learned lessons from this, because obviously it's happening again allegedly. It means that lessons have not been learned. So let's look at the conduct of the minister in this video as we have seen it. And I'll come to you, Doc, with that. What is wrong, particularly with the conduct of the minister? And if you could link that to gift-taking in government circles, I'll be very grateful. Doc, that's for you.
If you look at our laws in this country, you realize that anything that breaches a law or a code, it dovetails into the arena of corruption. So if you are a public officer and you conduct yourself in such a way that you breach a law or a code, and then the benefit doesn't go to the government, obviously in the realm of what? Corruption. And that speaks ill of the kind of system that we have, which the professor has already alluded to, and that there are certain structures that enable these things to fester. And it's about time we took a second look at it and then look at how best we can, right them. It is not for fun that the Constitution is also very strong about its, abhorrence corruption. If you look at the effect of corruption, there are a lot of resources that through corruption we lose through that process. And if we are able to organize them well, I'm not sure that issues such as going to the IMF and all that will be part of our calculation. So all in all, it is something that is worrying to students of good governance, because once you sign yourself up for the principle of good governance, you must at all times having in place institution structures that will enable you to fight the battle head on. We have some of them in this country, but unfortunately, through certain practices and certain behavior on the part of public officers, some of these institutions have been compromised, and the effect is what we are seeing.
So let me ask a more direct question. Did he do wrong? And what was the wrong he did in accepting what appeared to be a gift for shopping?
Well, obviously, when you are a public officer, and of course, a big one like that, accepting gifts is problematic, especially when you occupy an office. Let us remember that even in this country, there are laws regarding gifts, that if you take a gift, you need to pay a tax on that. It means that you need to make full disclosure. Was he ready to make full disclosure on that? It tells you that once you are not ready, then it tells you that that gift, there's something wrong with that. And a position like this, you are giving, all the pegs, all the things that will enable you to do your work in peace. So anything short of this compromises you, and then it creates a problem for those you work with. That is the government.
Very well, Prof. I want us to look at the implication of conducting business the way we have seen in, the video and other ones that have come and gone. If we continue to conduct government business the way we are seeing, what are some of the implications that could happen?
Huge implications, huge implications. Look, let me give you a personal story. A couple of years, 2.5 years ago, I happened to be privileged to be present at a dinner where there were about 15 to 18 diplomats from European countries. The main issue of discussion was the problems they were encountering getting their investors into the country. Because apparently, when they're in the country and looking for registration and other kinds of things they need to do, anyone who tends to lead them demands what they call down payment. And this, from what I heard, was mainly at the ministerial level. So you see, what happened with Agyeman-Duah for me is not strange. It confirms what I've heard with my own ears from diplomats who are representing their various countries in our own country here. So, if you ask for the implications, simply, from what I heard, 98% of those who came with the intention of investing in our country simply packed up and went back home. They did not. Because you know that in most of these countries, there are strict laws about investment. You can't go to another country and bribe your way to do business. And that is scaring a lot of investors away. If this is not known publicly, I'm happy to make it public today that a lot of investments coming here have gone back only because our public officials make demands on them. And that may explain why many projects fail to materialize in our country. I believe that my good friend, doctor on the program may know this. You see, so corruption, as you were saying, has huge implications for development. This is just one aspect, the fact that it scares away investors. Of course, partners also have their own perceptions of us because of our public officials, behavior. So this is not a small matter. It's not a small matter at all. So this video, even though I can tell you there are a lot of deficiencies in this video, as I said earlier, it may not establish direct links to people that he claims to.
We'll talk about the video. We'll talk about the video itself, the latter parts of our discussion today. But gentlemen, right now I want to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at some of the reactions that have come up since the video premiered in Accra, Ghana. Stay with us here on The Square. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Doc, I believe that there is some other audio playing on your device, and so we can hear music instead of you if you'd want to check that. And in the meantime, I'll go to Professor. Well, I can hear you now, Doc, so go ahead.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that if you look at the decision that was taken by the president, it was nothing but an decision that was taken. It was very prompt, right at the time. It was a good one. Because in order to forestall or restore confidence within the political system, you need as a leader to take such a decision, especially when some of your subordinates are caught in this type of, illegal business.
But
so
what would you say to those who think that this is just a move to score political points with the Ghanaian voters, especially because there had been calls earlier for the president to fire both Boahin and the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, and he really didn't budge to those calls. Suddenly, he knows how to fire. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, that creates a problem for the image of the government and all that with regard to the issue that we are talking about. All right, people have said a lot of times that we are gradually losing the fight. And if you look at statistics around from Transparency International and all that, you realize that we are not doing better at all. We keep on, working against the tide and all that. For me, this decision is a good one. I am happy that the matter has been referred to the Office of Special Prosecutor. I know that the office will do a good job and then come out with its findings. And then there we see what will be the reaction of government. For now, I believe that so far what has been taking place in terms of the decision by the government, there's nothing wrong with that. We want to see the next step. What would the Office of Special Prosecutor do? When he is also done with the report, where would the report find itself finally? And that is the crux of the matter. Over the years, I have said already that this fight has been a difficult one, simply because leaders have paid lip service to that. All right. Anytime that people in government are caught in this manner, a way is found out to either let them go or, they are taken out of office, and then that's the end of the story. So this one around, given the fact that this particular person was among, is part of the two that the public was asking that he be kicked out of office for poor performance with regard to the economy, in addition to his minister. I believe that the interest in this matter is not going to die down. Yeah. And that, I am sure, will help us to see the logical conclusion of this matter. I have no doubt in my mind that Ghanaians have interest in this. Even people outside this country show a lot of interest in this. Indeed. So I am not sure that anybody going to compromise in this matter.
Well, in the aftermath of the premiere of the documentary, the Vice President has also mentioned that he had no involvement or connection with whatever Mr. Boahin was saying in that video. Prof, should we take his denial as it is that enough to disconnect the Vice President from whatever we have seen so far? Prof, you're muted. We can't hear you. Well, I think that Prof, do you have another audio playing apart from you speaking to us, because we're having the same problem with you? But while you deal with the audio, I'll just move on because we have very limited time at this point. When you come back with your audio, I'll come back to you. But Doc, is it time that we had a clear law on giftings and gratuity so that public sector workers can apply them when they are dealing, or perhaps we should continue to leave them to their moral codes?
No, there are laws there. I've already said that gift, if you accept gift, you need to pay a tax on that. It means that you need to make full disclosure, and that questions will be asked, how you came by that and all that. So there are laws. The problem is enforcement. And more often than not, you realize that institutions that are responsible for, dealing with corruption, some of them have themselves also have their fingers soiled in that regard. A few years ago, some judges were caught by the same.
Right. So what I'm asking is it time that we make clear on what a public official can take from anybody while occupying public office? Because it's still quite gray as far as our laws are concerned.
Yeah, but if there are, I'm not sure whether the specifics, I can speak to them. But if there are no laws with regard to that, regarding the exact amount of money that somebody can give to you in terms of gifts for friendly serve and all that, then we need one in place. But when you look at it, all right, why do you even want to accept gift when you have a public duty and you are paid out of that? I think that gift doesn't come in at all, all right? Because as a position like the one we are talking about, it's a very high office that you have all the perks that make you comfortable than any other ordinary person. So away from the issue of gifts, all right, that shouldn't be an issue at all because it is on the basis of your responsibility and then the temptation, such as this, that we want to insulate you by giving you a lot of perks and then make your conditions better. So why going for gifts? Once you allow for gifts and all that, you open the floodgates for all manner of things to follow with regard to public offices.
Very well. Let's try Prof's audio again. Prof, you're back. I was asking about the Vice President's denial of any connection with this. Should we take his word for it?
Yes, I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt because, as you know, a conviction or anything else depends on evidence. And fighting corruption, one of the greatest obstacles is be able to prove that corruption took place. And evidence is very important. So I think we should give the Vice President the evidence, what you call the benefit of the doubt. But having said that, I think Dubois' case presents a special challenge to government. You see, like my good friend Dr. Asante said earlier, in this particular case, the president took prompt action in dismissing Dubois. If he had acted the same way in previous cases, I'm sure perhaps this current discussion wouldn't have taken place. The president has not been very active in facing up with such challenges. And all the previous cases that came to his attention, he simply said, there's no evidence, I've referred it to the CID, and they'll come up a couple of months later to say, we didn't find any evidence in this case. Corruption, actually, the reason why it's so difficult to fight is because in most cases, you do not have evidence. In the case of Dubois, for instance, it's a matter of influence peddling, because even if he took the money, we are not sure that the money was passed on to the vice president. At least it's not settled yet. That's why I'm thinking that the work of the special prosecutor is a very important one. And I hope he will have the independence that he needs to go into the depth of this case and inform the whole nation what he finds in his investigations, so that we can be sure that, in fact, what took place with the Dubois was limited to him, but it didn't extend to the high officials that he mentioned.
We have a few minutes to go, and I want to spend it on the documentary itself. Critics have said that and have asked, why did it take so long for this documentary to come out? Because this man has played a critical role since it was filmed 4 years ago. What are your thoughts on such questions, Prof?
I think these are good questions to raise. I've wondered myself, if you did this thing back in 2018, and assuming he was truly corrupted by that action, then we have allowed him for the next, 2018, almost 4 years, I would say 3 years now, still at post. So in that respect, I don't think the investigator did anything good. We should have had it promptly, so that if he demanded dismissal, his dismissal would have occurred long ago to have avoided subsequent behavior of the gentleman. So certainly that's a legitimate question to ask.
Doc, what do you think? Should they start to give us reasons for why this delay occurred?
Definitely the public has the right to know, because this is a public officer whose conduct is being questioned now. So once you've got the story, all right, there was every reason to believe that you should have published it long time. So if there is a delay, you need to give us reasons why it was so. I think a question of that nature to him will not be out of place at all.
While we are wrapping up, and I'll start with you, Doc, we know that Black Star Brokerage, which is a company that belongs to Boahing, has played a critical role in us going to get money on the bond market. Now that he's been fired by the president for alleged corrupt practices, should we end our relationship with Black Star Brokerage?
Obviously, that link must be broken, because even there has been question about, you know, the benefit that are accruing from such processes, which is a subject of, you know, discussion in Parliament today. So I think it is in the interest of the government to save its image by, you know, dissociating itself from that process, so that the body which is now looking at the matter with the IMF or that there is nothing associated with him that is linked to that discussion. Otherwise, it brings a lot of dent on the image of government and then the whole process, and that can create all manner of difficulty with us in terms of our access to the fund.
Prof, I'll let you have the last word on this. I know you nodded to that question about ending our relationship, but while at it, what will be your final words to the OSP as it investigates this matter?
Just on the point that my good friend made, I think the OSP should probe into the brokerage of Dubois because of this case, because that will help us to understand if in the past there have been incidents of corruption in the brokeraging of our loans by this company. So I think the investigation of the OSP should not be limited to this video by Anas. It should be extended to all the connections that this man has as a deputy finance minister. We got to know everything that he did in regards to helping this country to manage its affairs and how he may have used his position to amass wealth. That is very critical. I think we should not give up.
Gentlemen, your insights and time are very much appreciated on the program today. If you just joined us, you missed our conversation, but I have been talking with Professor Baffour Agyeman-Duah, who is a former UN advisor on governance, and Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, who is also a senior political science lecturer at Ghana's Premier University of Ghana. Many thanks once again, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your company. We'll be back same time Monday here on News Central TV. This is Village Square Africa. I am Kemini Amanor. Have a lovely weekend. Bye bye.